Hello. Well, here we are, beautiful spring day, and we're going to talk about W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. So you all have done, I think, a decent job talking about the two on Canvas. So now I'm going to add some additional points here. And I need you to know, I don't know why, but I need you to know anyway, I was happily minding my own business here at home and thought, okay, I've got to start a lecture. And I literally had to go put pants on. It's a going joke about telecommuting, right? Well, anyway, but nothing but the best for you guys. Other teachers and professors out there are just doing everything in their pajamas, not me, okay? All right, and look, I even have a Ralph Waldo Emerson shirt on here just for you. I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, this is Emerson's transparent eyeball here, okay? So yeah, all right. And that's actually, I don't have a W.E.B. Du Bois t-shirt. However, W.E.B. Du Bois was the very first African-American to receive the PhD at Harvard University. Yeah, and that's a remarkable accomplishment. These were in the days when folks were actively using someone's race against them. In 1909, sorry, I need to check on the date when he received it. But so he was one heck of a smart guy to bust through race prejudice at Harvard University. And his professor, in fact, at Harvard in philosophy was William James, who was the brother of our old friend Henry James. And then William James was deeply influenced by Emerson. So there's a direct lineage here between Emerson and W.E.B. Du Bois. Those of you who know anything about Emerson, the way he talked about the need to build up self-reliance from within and develop a sense of identity from within and resist those who would foist their expectations on you from without. That's all over W.E.B. Du Bois, as I'm sure you've noticed. And it's Du Bois, not DuBois. So anyway, that's how he pronounced it, so it's Du Bois. Just a truly, truly remarkable man. Anyway, so a few comments about all this. First of all, just to indicate how significant Du Bois really was. In the last major speech given by Martin Luther King, King said that Du Bois is one of the most remarkable men of our time. Okay, so that's from Dr. King. And then Eric Sundquist, who wrote a prominent prominent critical work called To Wake the Nations, Race and the Making of American Literature. Very important current critic. And he said about Souls of Black Folk that it is the preeminent text of African-American cultural consciousness. So it's really impossible to overstate the deep significance of his book, The Souls of Black Folk. The chapters that you read from Du Bois are two chapters out of that book. Yes, so he's done a tremendous amount to help establish African-American identity in the 20th century. So, okay, well, so to put it in context here, we got done talking about race from the point of view of Mark Twain. So just a few thoughts, comments here that I hope will be helpful. Souls of Black Folk was published about 15 years after Huckleberry Finn. And it too is known for its efforts to present the African-American cultural experience. But he's presenting that experience from the point of view of an African-American man. Twain actually, before his own change of consciousness, I mean, he fought on the side of the Confederacy briefly, but he did. He fought on the side of the Confederacy in the Civil War. And he's presenting the experience of race through the eyes of a young boy, Huck Finn. And so Jim's humanity does very much shine forth, I think, in some really remarkable ways, as we've been talking about, but still it is filtered through the consciousness of a young white boy's perspective. So, Huck Finn has done and continues to do important cultural work, which is to show the change of consciousness that America has undergone with regard to race and must continue to undergo with regard to race. But again, it's all based on the changing consciousness of white America. What we get with Du Bois is that the effort of African Americans to come to terms with their place in American society from their own point of view. And we've only gotten a taste of the souls of black folk, but if you're looking for something to do in this age of the coronavirus, I would really encourage you to read the whole thing. It's an amazing work of literature. Souls of Black Folk, it operates in so many different genres. You have history, you have philosophy, you have sociology, you have musicology, you have a short story, you have literature. And so the reason why Du Bois has to write in so many different genres, it's very simple. It's just that the African American experience is so complicated. No one genre can do the trick, okay? It takes every academic genre there is to begin to capture or to begin to approach the African American experience, the African American identity, and the African American struggle. So that's why. Okay, so we do get, and trust me, none of this is to downplay what we get in Mark Twain, as I hope what comes across. I really like this book for all its flaws. And Twain, I think, did a remarkable job of calling out white racism and the change that white people need to undergo and do undergo. And there's this one passage we didn't look at when we talked about the novel, but if you have it handy, this is in chapter 6, about 4 pages into chapter 6, and he's calling out Pap. Pap, among all his other problems, alcoholic, abusive father, all that sort of stuff, he's also a pretty horrific racist. And so, so have a look at this. So Pap's going on a tirade against an educated African-American man who's a professor at a university, and Pap can't stand that, right? From his point of view, black people should always be in a lower position to white people. So here's this black person who's accomplished so much more than Pap has, and it drives him nuts. So in addition to everything else, Pap is a horrible racist and he's full of envy. So again, I mean, what we have to, well, let me read it and then I'll comment. He had the whitest shirt. He's talking about the professor, lives in Ohio, a freed black man who's a professor there. He had the whitest shirt on you ever see, too, and the shiniest hat. And there ain't a man in that town that's got as fine clothes as what he had. And he had a gold watch and chain and a silver-headed cane, the awfulest old gray-headed nabob in the state. And what do you think? They said he was a professor at a college. Man, nothing worse than being a professor at a college. Okay. And he could talk all kinds of languages and knowed everything. And that ain't the worst. They said he could vote when he was at home. Well, that let me out. Thinks I, what is the country coming to? It was election day and I was just about to go vote myself if I weren't too drunk to get there. Yeah, so this is Twain showing pretty clearly, the worst of the worst are the ones who are having the most trouble with black people having an opportunity to advance themselves. In other words, racism is nothing but the product of hate and envy from the worst among white America. So this is designed, this is Twain holding up a mirror to white America saying, if you're this racist as Pap, you're as bad a person as Pap is. So this is Twain trying to shame people and to stop being so racist. Okay, and I'll keep going. Pap was going on, so he never noticed where his old limber leg was taking him to. So he went head over heels over the tub of salt pork and barked both shins. And the rest of his speech was all the hottest kind of language. So anyway, so here Pap becomes a comic fool for all his racial hatred, which is exactly what needed to happen to old Pap. But what we get from DuBois, again, Twain's doing something valuable here, but the focus is very much on white people and their racism and then Huck's disgust with his own father's behavior. But what we're getting in DuBois is how Pap's racism and all the racists like Pap, the effect that is having on black Americans. Yeah, and yes, so that's what we are getting again in DuBois. So, okay, so what we're getting in both DuBois and Washington is two different points of view on how this racism needs to be mitigated. Two different points of view. So that will be this, I'm going to leave off right here. And that I will get into in part 2. Okay? All right. So stay tuned.